I've been saying, of all the offensive genius head coaches, Sean McVay is, without question, the greatest to score just 3 points in a Super Bowl. Well, in the words of Cam Newton, I'm back! Though, let's hope this goes better than Cam's return to the Panthers. Who am I? I'm your host, Brandon Perna, and if this doesn't go well, I have a built-in excuse, which is the owner of the Game Day is offering me an extra $1,000 a week to tank this show. And unlike old Brian Flores, if someone is offering to pay me more money to do a worse job, well, that's not something I'm going to publicly complain about. On this week's show, you know what? If I'm gonna phone it in, who cares, right? Just watch the damn episode if you want to see what I'm gonna talk about in today's episode that's gonna be sports related somehow. Dinks and Dunks, I guess. We're only a few days away from the Chiefs and Rams squaring off in Super Bowl 56 at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Shit, Bengals and Rams. I still can't believe it's the Joe Burrow-led Bengals. Now the Rams are the beneficiaries of the game being played in LA, as they'll be able to use their home locker room. Not to mention, get to sleep in their own beds. On the downside, well, this means they'll also have to sleep with their own wives for a change. Now, despite this year's game being played outdoors, all fans will be required to wear masks due to California law, with two exceptions. They're eating, or they're taking a photo with Magic Johnson. At least according to LA Mayor Eric Garcetti, who during the NFC Championship snapped a maskless pic with the Lakers legend.
I wore my mask the entire game, and when people ask for a photograph, I hold my breath and I put it here and people can see that. There's a 0% chance of infection from that.
And while the mayor has been mocked for this statement, I'm here to defend the mayor because the CDC has stated there's almost no risk of catching COVID outdoors. And besides, when has not wearing proper protection while being with Magic Johnson ever led to any problems? I can't think of one time. A quick reminder that if you're gonna bet the game, head over to thegameday.com for all the best odds and payouts. And make sure to sign up at the Game Day using the link below for your chance to win a 65-inch Omni Series 4K Smart TV, as well as other prizes. Now, despite no games last week, plenty of big NFL storylines emerged. None bigger than the controversy surrounding Brian Flores, who accused multiple teams of not following the integrity of the Rooney Rule. Among those Flores accused, John Elway of the Broncos, who Flores said showed up to a 2019 interview late and looking disheveled and hungover from a night of drinking. Elway responded in a statement, "For Brian to make an assumption about my appearance and state of mind early that morning was subjective, hurtful, and just plain wrong." Which I'm not sure was Elway's best defense. How dare Brian Flores assume I was hungover? Anyone who knows me can confirm I'm always this big of a mess. You tell him, John. And the Jacksonville Jaguars announced the hiring of Doug Peterson to be their next head coach. And at his introductory press conference, team owner Shad Khan made sure to establish that no final decision was made until all candidates were interviewed, which is especially smart in these racially sensitive times. And even more so when you remember this Jaguars clip is still floating around the internet. So in the end, did the Jags end up hiring the whitest candidate? Well, Peterson certainly didn't dispel that notion when he said this.
Our three sons, Drew, Josh, and Joel, they are so excited to be able to get ready to put on the Jacksonville Jaguar swag, as they call it.
Now, in response to a question about what he learned during his year away from the NFL, the former Eagles coach had this to say about the benefits.
It was a great year from the standpoint of, we watched our oldest son get married. We had a grandchild during the season. I lost my brother to cancer last year.
One of those things is definitely not like the others. This would be like a guy saying, "My dad was a mean drunk. He'd come home from work, wake me up, and on the kitchen table there'd be 3 things: a belt, a switch, and a cupcake. And he'd say, 'Pick one, son.'" The Pro Bowl Skills Showdown took place last week, including the surprisingly entertaining Thread the Needle Challenge, in which QBs attempt to throw a ball into super tight windows. And I'm just glad this event didn't take place during the last administration, because this feels exactly like the kind of thing Trump would have commented on. "Nobody threads the needle as huge as I do," which he wouldn't be totally wrong about. Last week was the first college football signing day since name, image, and likeness deals were made legal by the NCAA. And Texas A&M coach Jimbo Fisher addressed a message board rumor that A&M donors spent $30 million on NIL deals for incoming recruits.
There is no $30 million fund. This is garbage. It comes from a site called Bro Bible by a guy named Slice Bread. So it's written on the internet as gospel. How irresponsible is that?
Irresponsible? Maybe. Tons of fun? Absolutely, because with the leveling of the media landscape, we now get to listen to 76ers GM Daryl Morey having to refute Ben Simmons' trade rumors from accounts like this.
We had a trade debated that was tweeted out by Ballsack Sports. People were treating that like it was a real thing. I'm imploring people to not get too attached to Ballsack Sports.
Don't get attached to ballsack? Try telling that to my thighs. And while I have no idea if unaffiliated Twitter handles like Ballsack Sports are doing real reporting, I can tell you ESPN reporter Brian Windhorst isn't making a great argument for the sanctity of capital J journalists when he does breaking news like this.
I'm tempted to say Jokic and whoever, because I just think Jokic is a horse. Literally.
Jokic is literally a horse? How is this not the biggest story in sports right now? And finally, in baseball news, Major League Baseball remains in lockout, with the team owners and the players union unable to reach a compromise on a variety of labor issues. And while I would normally say there are no winners here, there is one person in favor of this prolonged labor stoppage dragging on as long as possible. The guy who took the picture of the baseball next to the chain. Okay, Tony, so 1 segment down, 2 to go. B block, more on the Brian Flores story, right?
Yep.
And you guys are just gonna come in with the Bill Belichick texts?
Yeah, we got him. We'll roll him in.
This morning, a bombshell lawsuit with the potential to upend the NFL.
Brian Flores, the former head coach of the Miami Dolphins, filed a class action lawsuit against the New York Football Giants and the NFL.
I interviewed for the Giants position the Monday prior. I received a text message from Bill Belichick.
Now he gets a text from Bill Belichick. This is 3 days before Flores actually interviews in person.
Belichick wrote, "Sounds like you have landed. Congrats."
I asked him, "You talking to the right Brian?" And he was actually thought he was texting Brian Daboll.
Accidental text on purpose.
Oh my brilliant! Brian Flores used to work as an assistant with the New England Patriots.
Brian Flores was going to take over in New England.
If we can get Flores to come back as the coach in waiting with the understanding he'll take over, it's the guy I want.
There are back channel conversations, back channel meetings. It was clear that that decision was made with his influence.
This botched exchange could change history.
all the claims that Belichick is being somewhat of a Luddite and doesn't know how to deal with technology.
I can't change the clock in my car. There should be something that you would say would be like clock.
You don't have to do heavy digging. Go back a couple of years.
Belichick tried to slip his son into the play caller position under the radar.
There's antennas that connect.
This was the first year I started to get a sense that maybe Steve's the one who takes over for Bill, not Josh McDaniels.
Maybe he saw a little bit of the writing on the wall there and said, I might be the one left without a seat here.
In the end, I don't know anybody that knows our football program better than Steven.
It is, for the most part, the family business.
Like I said, football's my thing.
He clearly is on the fast track. He clearly has the DNA to be another Bill Belichick.
Looks like he's the guy.
They get to do the father-son thing for as long as Bill wants to coach, and then when Bill's done coaching, Steve takes over.
We talked last night, and I decided to resign as the head coach.
Here's Robert Kraft right now. He'll sit down and make the official announcement.
I'm very excited to introduce to you our new head coach,
Steve Belichick. Steve Belichick.
He's the most capable person at this point in time to help us win next year.
Odd man out. The Washington football team revealed its new team name, the Commanders, on Groundhog Day, which was fitting because, much like the movie Groundhog Day with Bill Murray, the same issues surrounding the team and its ownership seem to repeat themselves over and over and over again.
And now we're learning about new sexual harassment allegations made against the Washington Commanders owner, Dan Snyder.
Now, back in 2020, in response to an explosive Washington Post story detailing allegations of sexual misconduct within the team, Dan Snyder responded by saying this: "I have admittedly been too hands-off as an owner to the detriment of our organization." But when Snyder said he was going to be more hands-on, it seems he meant that quite literally.
I learned how to discreetly remove a man's unwanted hand from my thigh at a crowded dinner table at a busy restaurant to avoid a scene. I also learned later that evening how to awkwardly laugh when Dan Snyder aggressively pushed me towards his limo with his hand on my lower back.
Now, the most damning part, maybe all of this, it was revealed that thanks to Roger Goodell, Snyder gets to determine whether findings from the NFL's investigation of the team are released. Which is a little like if the chicken had final say if he wanted to go into the fryer. In response to this Goodell bombshell, two of the accusers and former employees, Melanie Coburn and Anna Nunez, hand-delivered a letter to the owners demanding a full release of the findings of the investigation. Though when Snyder heard hand-delivered full release, he was like, where do I sign? So, how does this seemingly endless Snyder saga eventually come to an end? Well, for reference, I think it's helpful to examine how the NBA eventually rid itself of a despised creep owner with the same DS initials. It wasn't the Clippers players who brought down Donald Sterling. After all, their biggest stand against the guys signing their checks was turning their warm-ups inside out and putting them in a pile at center court. Profiles in courage? This was not. What ended up bringing Donald Sterling down was literally a rabbit.
I'm Mr. Sterling's right-hand arm. I'm his confidant, his best friend, his silly rabbit.
Okay, maybe figuratively a rabbit, but the tapes from that rabbit ended up serving as the turning point in public opinion, which eventually forced Sterling to sell his team. No one in recent memory did more for the Shield than V. Stiviano, with the exception of the person who eventually takes down Dan Snyder and saves a different type of Shield. All right. That's it for today. Enjoy the big game, everyone, and we will talk next week. Go Bengals. Go Rams. I just,